hire the best talent. Hire the people that can do your job in 2 to 3 years so you can continue to grow and learn and develop and do more.
Gina Mastantuono knows what it takes to climb to the top. The first in her family to graduate college, she's now the powerhouse CFO who's driven 21% year-over-year growth at ServiceNow, which crossed $10 billion in revenue last year. She became president and CFO at ServiceNow in January 2020, steering the company through the pandemic and into its debut on the 2023 Fortune 500 list. She's poised to make the most of the AI movement and says she's determined to make ServiceNow the defining enterprise software company of the 21st century. Hi, I'm Ruth Umoh, editor at Fortune, and this is Next to Lead, our weekly series about the new generation of C-suite talent. In each episode, we will speak with today's most prominent leaders who are shaping the future of business and, quite frankly, have CEO bona fides. How do they get where they are, what drives their vision for the future, and how do they turn setbacks into comebacks? We will dig into their career journeys, talk about their big wins, and explore the lessons they've learned along the way.
Are you ready to nurture what's next? Reimagine industries to turn bold ambition into the beginning of everything. What's your next brilliant move? McKinsey & Company.
And now, here's Gina. Welcome, Gina Mastantuono, President and CFO of ServiceNow. Thank you so much for joining us at Fortune at Next Lead. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I'm delighted to be here.
Fantastic. All right, I want to discuss your leadership journey. You began your career in the rigor of the Big Four. You then pivoted into beauty at Revlon, and ultimately you are in tech. What is the through line of skills that's allowed you to thrive across such different industries? Walk me through kind of those jumps there.
Yeah, so I like to say it hasn't been a ladder, but it's been a curvature journey for me. But it's been super fun.
I'm sure.
And what I'd say is that the great thing about finance is that the skill set, for the most part, is very transferable amongst industries. And so what tended to happen with me is once I started to get a little bit complacent, I would look to the next industry to learn something different and learn something new. And so I'd say a couple of key words in my journey have to do with learning, curiosity, and risk-taking is a big piece. And so, as you said, I started out at Ernst Young, which is still, I think, one of the Big Four, is one of the great places to learn post-college and really understand business.
Why is that?
The rigor in which they bring people into the business and learn soup to nuts a company is remarkable. And I think I always tell folks when they ask me, what should I do after college? I'm like, if you have the opportunity to work for any one of the Big Four, it's a great starting springboard, which I think is fantastic. And from there, I just continued to hone my skills. And so I started off in accounting, which I actually became an accountant because it's actually an interesting story. I grew up the first person in my family to go to college. And so for me, it was all about how can I make sure that I can take care of myself. I don't have to rely on anyone else. And so I had a friend tell me, well, they always need accountants in a recession. So your job is pretty secure. And so I went in accounting and I loved it. And so I started Ernst Young, but I quickly realized that if I wanted to be a broader finance leader, I had to get out of accounting and really look at the other aspects of finance. But back then, it was very easy to get pigeonholed into the area that you know well and that you're a subject matter expert in. And so I took a real chance when I left IAC to go to Revlon because they were amidst a turnaround. The stock was $1 at the time.
And this is in what year?
This is, oh gosh, Ruth, this is in 2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008 timeframe. And I had a great job at IAC, which is an incredible company, but I wanted to do something different. And it was interesting because I almost didn't take the meeting because I got a call from the recruiter and they said, oh, it's an assistant controller role at Revlon. I'm like, I am in an assistant controller role in a great company. If I want to do something different, I want to do something different. And the recruiter's like, do me a favor, just take the meeting. There's a new, really young CFO. He's super progressive, and they're doing some interesting things. So I took the meeting for the assistant controller role. And I walked out with an offer to be the international CFO.
Okay, we need specifics.
It was just I had an incredible meeting with an incredible young CFO who I still dearly call a friend. And we connected on a level that was just he saw the potential. He didn't saw my capability at the moment, but he saw my potential for tomorrow. And so he took a chance on me. And so I took a chance on them. And I say that's the first big pivot moment for me. And it was a real risk to do something that I had never done before. I had done everything in accounting. I had only been in domestic companies. To then take this international CFO in a new industry, going through massive turnaround, it was a big leap of faith on both sides. But it worked out extremely well. I was there 7 years. I was promoted multiple times. And I think that's where I really felt for the first time ever that I could be a CFO. I get the question all the time, did you always know you wanted to be a CFO? And I say, never. I never saw anyone who looked like me in the CFO role. I'm also, I didn't come from a rich background. I said I was the only first person in my family to go to school. So I never saw anyone that I would aspire to be in finance like that. But at Revlon, working with some really incredible people, I was like, wait a minute, I can do that. And so from there, the next big risk I took was when I left Revlon. So I had 2 kids at the time. They were 5 and 2. I grew up in New York. My whole family was in New York. My husband's English, and so his whole family's back in London. And I got an incredible opportunity at a company, the biggest company that no one's ever heard of, Ingram Micro, tech distribution.
Number 95 on the Fortune 500.
Exactly. And they were, gosh, they were 40 billion in revenue at the time. Tiny, tiny gross margins, but it was a succession planning role. So it was come and be the EVP of finance with succession to CFO in 18 to 24 months. But I had to lift up my whole young family and move to the West Coast with no real net under me. But I looked at my husband, he's like, let's do this. And that's the thing I have to say. I couldn't have done anything that I have been able to accomplish without the support of my husband. Because at that point in time, when we moved to California, we made the decision that he was going to stay home and really help support the 2 boys at home and allow me to thrive. And that has been, I think, a critical aspect of my success.
Yeah. You talk about the fact that you've left each, let's say, industry or each company when you feel complacent. How do you determine when you're feeling complacent? How do you determine what is a risk, but a calculated risk that is worth taking?
Oh gosh, it's such a good question. I think that you have to weigh out what's important to you. I've always been ambitious, but I've always wanted to continue to learn and grow. I have this insatiable curiosity of doing new things and different things. And so when I feel like I'm no longer having the impact that I really want to be having, that's when I feel it's time to move on. And so what's really important to me also is building strong teams so that when I do make this decision to leave, that there's a really strong bench behind me. And so leadership to me, a lot of that is all about building incredible talent, building an incredible bench so that they can continue to grow. And I remember Dara Khosrowshahi, who was the CFO of IAC when I was there, he hired me. And one of the greatest things I learned from him was hire the best talent. Hire the people that can do your job in 2 to 3 years so you can continue to grow and learn and develop and do more. And I've taken that to heart my entire career. And that's how I think I've been able to lead incredible teams because I can't do anything of what I do without the team.
Certainly not. With each elevation, are you active? Are you sitting back and having kind of this come to Jesus, or come to whatever deity moment and saying, okay, I want to get here. And so I need these specific skills. Or is it more passive? You're working hard at your current role. External parties notice it and they bring you into the fold. Or are you being more intentional, being a bit more of a careerist?
Yeah, I would say the answer is different at different points in my career. So I would say at Revlon at that time, I was ready for something different. And as I said before, it was the first time I realized that CFO could be in the cards, right? And so at that point, it was like, what skill set do I need to complete my toolbox to be able to do that? And so when the Ingram Micro opportunity came, it kind of was a no-brainer. Even though it was a big risk, for me, it was a smart risk because I knew that those skills that I was going to be able to learn in that interim role were going to position me extremely well once I got the top job. And by the way, ended up being a very seamless transition for me because I did that. And so a lot of times I tell folks, people want the top job immediately. Be careful what you wish for and really think about preparing yourself for the role and making sure that you're ready for the role because it's not easy. And so, really making sure that you are filling that toolbox with the right skill set at the right time is really important as you scale and grow.
We'll soon pivot and actually zero in on ServiceNow, where you obviously are currently. But I also want to note the fact, and you've kind of alluded to this already, the scale of the companies you've served in various senior leadership roles has also varied dramatically. Revlon was at $2 billion, Ingram at nearly $50 billion. How did you adapt to that jump in scope and also complexity?
Yeah. So the jump to Ingram was huge, and I was actually really, really pleased that I didn't take the top job right away because understanding and learning the scale and scope. And the thing about Ingram was they had tiny, tiny margins. So their gross margins were about 8%. So the scale of that company and the risk, because the balance sheet was so large, was really, really different than anything that I had seen before at IAC or Revlon. So growing into that and learning that and really understanding the risk management side of the house there was very, very important. Now, it positioned me really well to go into a company like ServiceNow. And it's funny because one of the board members who interviewed me for the position, he had been at Cisco for years, and so he knew Ingram Micro. He's like, if you can be the CFO at Ingram, you could be the CFO anywhere. And it's true because the scale was so large that you had to understand so many different parts of the business, and the business was complex. And so that positioned me really well that when I got the opportunity for ServiceNow, I jumped at it. And back to your question, that's something that I didn't seek out, but when it came, I was ready for it
Did you know immediately?
immediately. Immediately. So fast forward to ServiceNow, Bill McDermott hired me. He had just been named CEO at the time. And we had breakfast, I think the morning after. And I had met Bill McDermott maybe 2 or 3 years prior at a lunch, small lunch. But he remembered me from 3 years prior. Bill McDermott meets 1,000 people a year. And he remembered the lunch, remembered the meeting, remembered me. So it made me feel very seen immediately. And so I spent 5 minutes with him and I wanted that job. And fast forward, I've been in the role almost 6 years and it's been my dream. And it's been my privilege to work with Bill McDermott because he is a visionary leader that is just incredibly inspiring to be around. And he's someone who I've learned how to connect vision and culture to strategy in a way that I hadn't learned before.
Well, since you brought up ServiceNow, perfect segue. As you already said, you joined the company in 2020, just some months before the pandemic kicked off. The company made its Fortune 500 debut in 2023. It appeared on the list for its third consecutive year in 2025. Under your tenure, I mean, the company has seen considerable, remarkable, really, revenue growth. How much of move into ServiceNow was about the potential for making an outsized impact and the opportunity to really leave your mark in a different way?
Yeah, it was so much of it was about the opportunity that I saw in front of
And you
us.
knew at the time. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, but
I
even back
I
then.
felt it for sure. Now, you could say, did I know? Yeah, I thought so, right? I really believed in the opportunity. I thought that the company was so well positioned for success. I thought under Bill's leadership, there was only up in the trajectory. And the other piece that's really important was that I thought that being a CFO of a high-tech company, the platform that it gave me as a woman CFO would give much more visibility to women at the top, which for me, as we talked about earlier, is so very important because I didn't see anyone who looked like me. So I didn't know I could be that until I was well into my 30s. And so having the platform where women and girls can see that they can dream the impossible and they can do whatever it is that they want was really important to me. So it was those two things together that made the leap to ServiceNow a no-brainer for
Yeah.
me.
Well, let's dig into numbers even more. ServiceNow, again, under your tenure, has already doubled its market cap past $200 billion in about 4 years. What's behind that growth trajectory?
So many things. So actually, I when I started, the market cap was just over 50. And so it's more than quadrupled. And it's been on the back of remarkable top line growth and incredible margins. And the reason for that, I'm convinced, is that we are a company that's customer obsessed. It's how can we help our customers get value from their technology and really help drive business model innovation, cost savings, productivity across the board. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been very focused. It's been very clear. Our ambition is to become the defining enterprise software company of the 21st century, and we do that by connecting vision and strategy and culture and people in a way that I haven't seen before. And I walk the halls with investors sometimes who come to our big knowledge conference, which is our user conference with customers, and they say to me that they can feel the culture of ServiceNow when they walk through the hallways, and it's really incredible. It's a company that has been super successful, but at the core of who we are, it's about hungry and humble. And that culture was there 6 years ago when I was there, and it's the forefront of who we are today, which I think is remarkable.
You use the term customer centricity, and I feel like it's a phrase that's often used almost so much that it can sometimes feel like corporate jargon. So when you use that phrase, I mean, how is it tangibly borne out at ServiceNow? What does it really mean to you
Yeah.
in practice?
So I talk to customers every single day. It's so funny. I was at a CFO conference earlier, and one of my peers was like, "You're going to a customer meeting. What does that mean? Investors?" I'm like, "No, no. I meet with investors all the time, but no, I meet with my customers. I try to understand their pain points. I try to understand how our technology is helping them. I try to understand the problems that they're trying to solve. So, is there a way that our technology can help them deal with their issues and solve their problems tomorrow?" So there's not one person in ServiceNow, whether they're in finance, whether they're in tech, whether they're in legal or HR, that's not talking to customers on a regular basis. And I don't think that that's so commonplace. When I talk to my peers, they're not doing that. And so we live it and we breathe it. And I truly believe that it's a big part of why we've been so successful.
Yeah. What are the challenges or the problems you're trying to solve for your customers today?
Well, right now, a lot of it is around AI and how AI is going to change their business model. And so, how AI can help them either drive business model innovation, productivity, or cost savings, and really drive efficiencies. And so, that's obviously a big topic of conversation with customers today.
All right.
Yeah,
Perfect segue. Let's talk about CFO role today and
sure.
AI. ServiceNow, as you've already said, has invested heavily in AI. I believe you shared on your LinkedIn that the firm is participating in Anthropic's latest funding round. As a CFO, I mean, how do you balance some of these bold best bets in investing in AI and also delivering kind of that operating discipline that your investors, that your shareholders demand?
Yeah. Listen, I think as a CFO and as a leader in general, especially in today's day, you've got to really think about ROI in a different way. And you've got to take some big bets, which means you've got to say no to some really good ideas in order to say yes to some great ideas. That's not my quote, that's Steve Jobs' quote. But I truly believe in that. And so it's about investing ahead of the curve. It's about prioritization. And it's about really trying to see around corners and what's coming next. Right. And so
Easier said than done.
it's not so easy. Right. But I think the companies that do it well are the companies that are super successful. Now, there's no company that's going to make big bets and get every single one of them right. It means you make mistakes. But if you can really focus on seeing around corners and connecting the dots. So I talk about the modern CFO as someone who is, besides the CEO, is probably the only other person who really can see across the enterprise in a way that they connect dots that really can help drive strategy, and drive growth in the long run. And so really being an enterprise leader today means being accountable to the full picture, the strategy, the people, the culture, and the results. And to be able to communicate that well to your customers, your employees, and your investors is a huge part of the job. And so I've been super focused on not just ensuring that I'm a subject matter expert in finance, but really being able to see around those corners, to lean in, to connect people, to connect the dots across a multitude of aspects of the business to really help drive what I think has been remarkable growth for ServiceNow.
Yeah. How much technical fluency or even AI literacy do you have to have?
I think leaders in this world today have to have technical fluency. I had a conversation with my CTO a while back. For so long we were teaching CTOs to have business acumen, and now you got to teach everyone else on the C-suite the technical acumen, because that's critical to success. Every company is a tech company now. Fortune's a tech company, right? JP Morgan, all the banks, all the retailers, they're all tech companies now. And so as a finance leader, as a leader in any discipline, you have to have that tech fluency for sure.
Mhm. You mentioned the fact that the modern CFO is often a co-pilot to the CEO. It's also, as I'm sure you know, a primary stepping stone to the corner office. How is your role extended beyond just finance, but into product, into platform, into go-to-market strategy, into HR and talent operations? I'm sure you're kind of touching it all.
Yeah. So I say often that I'm as close with my chief people officer as I am with my chief product officer and my chief go-to-market officer. Because if we're not connecting the dots, there's no way that we're going to hit the growth trajectory and the growth outlooks that I know that we can hit. And so we've got to connect the dots. We've got to stay close. And I think that being a co-pilot to the CEO is about really being able to understand the underlying business drivers and the value drivers so we can connect the dots and really drive that growth. And the relationship between CEO and CFO is so very important, which is why I said earlier I was excited to come to ServiceNow because Bill will tell you we are connected at the hip and understand the direction that we're each going in because it's the only way forward.
How's the finance function evolved? I mean, let's say today for you compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
I would say that there's a lot more forward-looking parts of the business, much more strategic, much more analytical.
What was it before?
A lot of it was around reporting the results, right? Getting the results done right, and reporting them well. But now it's about that. That's like a small sliver of the job. It's important, very important. But it's about what do those results mean? What are those results telling you? How do we think about those results in the context of what it's going to mean next quarter, next year? I've got to think about not what we're doing for next quarter. I've got to think about what we're investing in for the next 3, 5, and 10-year horizon. When I talk about looking at ROI early on, I'm making bets today for 5 years from now, not for tomorrow. And so that is very different, I think, than 10 years ago. Plus, I've been recently promoted to president. So I also now have, thank you. Also now have strategy and corp development. So as we're thinking about the growth trajectory to 20 and 30 billion, what does that mean strategically? Go to market, product, portfolio, working with all of my chief product officer, my chief people officer, my head of sales to make sure that the individual strategies are not individual. They need to be connected. What we're investing in product needs to be invested in go to market, or else there's it's not symbiotic. We won't get the results. The talent strategy underpins the entirety of the company. So if we're not connecting those dots really seamlessly, then we're not going to be taking advantage of all of the opportunity in front of us.
And that requires a really holistic approach. You obviously cannot reach those 5 or 10 year growth trajectories on your own. What is your blueprint for building out a solid team, a team of high performers? And conversely, what are the red flags?
Great question. So I talked earlier about team being everything. And I think enterprise leadership, it's not just about the team under you, but it's the team around you, right? And so how do we make sure that we're working together as a leadership team to ensure succession planning across right? How do we ensure that I'm giving feedback on the folks in the product organization, on the HR? How does my head of talent tell me what she's seeing with my team? I think it's about hiring folks that are technically literate and really understanding technology, really understanding value drivers and not just subject matter experts. I also think in an AI enabled world, which is coming, the human relationships and the human interactions are going to be the competitive differentiation. AI is going to do the routine, but the complex reasoning, the creativity, the emotional intelligence, that's where real differentiation is going to take place. So when you're hiring and building out great teams, you've got to lean into folks that are curious, that really want to continue to learn, that don't think of emotional intelligence as a nice to have, but it's a has to have. They're the new power skills of tomorrow, right? Empathy, emotional intelligence, creativity. That human relationship is so very critical and important. And finance leaders, the good ones, need to build that in their teams because they got to reach across the enterprise to ensure that they know what's going on, not just within their own siloed organization, but much more cross functionally than ever before.
Well, our viewership for this video series are ambitious, fast rising executives or current executives like yourselves. What do you think is more important as for those aspiring to the C suite or the corner office at large? Breadth of skills or depth of skills?
I think it depends on where you are in your career, right? As you're rising in the ranks, the depth of what you know is so very important. I do. But as you're starting to come out of that early in career, the breadth becomes more and more important. And it's really important that people realize that what got you here today is not necessarily what's going to get you to the next rung. So you've got to kind of change mindsets along the way. And the people that are able to do that are the people that end up really successful. But it means pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. If you get that new role that's more broad, but you tend to focus on the stuff you know and don't really focus on the new stuff as much, well, then you didn't take advantage of that opportunity and you're not going to be well positioned for yet the next rung. And so understanding that you've got to push yourself out of that comfort zone. I love this quote by Ginny Romany. I wish I said it myself, but I live by it. Growth and comfort do not coexist. So you got to raise your hand. You got to put yourself out for that opportunity, that stretch assignment. And you've got to focus on doing that stuff, not the stuff that you know so well. And that's what's going to make you successful each time.
So very well said. Well, I want to get your expertise on a recent trend that I'm noticing, and it kind of sits at the intersection of finance and tech and talent, all of the intersections at which you reside. I think that for years, layoffs were treated almost like a mark of shame. Certainly within tech, it was a signal of poor financial planning or weak performance. But in this AI era, I'm noticing that it's become something that CEOs are actually proud to discuss, especially in shareholder meetings or earnings calls. It's a sign of productivity gains. We don't need as many people. And it seems as though shareholders also reward that. I'm curious whether you think that's a correct assessment, whether that's a trend you're seeing as well, whether you think it's a trend that will be ongoing. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts in that regard?
I think that shareholders rewarded short term in companies that they believe don't have the right profitability metrics, right? And so for those companies, they're excited that they're doing the right thing, that they were growth at all costs and they weren't focused on the bottom line. And they take it not that they are applauding layoffs, but that they're applauding financial discipline in a way that they're happy is finally happening at those companies. Um, at ServiceNow, we haven't had to do mass layoffs. I'm really proud of that. So is Bill, because we have been very financially disciplined always. And so we talk about productivity. I talked at our analyst day a few months ago that our operating plan at the beginning of the year versus our operating plan in May, I was able to save $100 million in planned hiring. So no layoffs, but I don't have to hire as many people. When you're growing at, above 20% a year and you can hire significantly less than that, that's real productivity gains and efficiency that we're seeing from our use of the Now platform internally. I didn't have to do layoffs and I'm getting the gains and efficiencies. So my shareholders and investors love that message.
And also, it enhances culture.
Well,
I mean, they
it's a
also are a culture destroyer.
it's a big part of the culture. And so Bill has been adamant about driving culture at ServiceNow first and foremost. And so that financial discipline is ingrained in our DNA, and it's something that the both of us have been driving since day one.
How are you using AI in your day-to-day work?
Oh, goodness. Prepping for investors, investor calls, um, tons of analytics, forecasting, right? AI is sometimes better than humans at forecasting. In my personal life, I just planned an incredible Italian themed birthday party, a lot with AI, which is fantastic. Um,
What's your horoscope sign?
Cancer. Um, and so trying to use it every single day, because the more you use it, the more you get accustomed to it, and it's here to stay.
Absolutely. What was the singular role or project that most propelled you to where you are today?
I mean, this role at ServiceNow is my dream job, and I absolutely wouldn't be here today. I think everything has prepared me for it, but moving into this role has been the defining point in my career so far.
What skills, habits, or mindsets would you say are essential for reaching the C-suite?
Resilience, very strong communication skills, a little bit of grit helps, and empathy and compassion.
You have previously described yourself as an introvert, which is music to my ears, as also a self-proclaimed introvert. And you said you're someone who has to push yourself to be extrovert in this role, which I thought was so interesting. Do you believe that extroversion is essential to being in the C-suite? And I mean, as an introvert, subsequently, how do you recharge?
Yes.
So let's
So,
start with the first part.
yeah,
Is it a must?
I don't think it's a must. I do think that in the role of CFO, if you're really out there connecting dots and talking with customers and shareholders and investors all the time, you need to push yourself, if you are an introvert, to do that more often. Like, it's really important to be out there. We have tons of stakeholders across the board that you've got to be connecting with all the time. And for an introvert, that's putting a lot of energy out. And so how I recharge is I'm on the road this week, meeting with tons of customers, investors, and folks like you. And when I get home, I will go into my bedroom, and my husband will know. Don't talk to mommy for a good 4 hours. I need to come down and decompress a little bit. And so it's just knowing the right thing to do to kind of recharge. I also say I'm a self-professed gym rat. I really use the gym to help ground me and to help give me back my energy. I couldn't do what I do at the level I do if I wasn't taking really good care of myself from a health and wellness perspective.
Absolutely. A little bit of a self-imposed solitary confinement.
A little,
Plug yourself in and recharge.
that's right. That's right.
A couple of final questions here for you. What's the best career advice that you have ever received?
Hire the best talent. No matter, do not, like, so many people are afraid to hire great talent because they're going to take their jobs. No, you got to hire the talent that's going to take your job so you can continue to grow and learn and develop.
In your early career, when you knew that you wanted to be in finance, did you ever dream of running a company? What company did you dream of running?
I never dreamed of running a
Never.
company, Ruth. Wouldn't have even crossed my mind. Nope.
I know you said you didn't dream of being a CFO. Did you dream of reaching the C-suite at all?
No,
No, you were just taking
never
it day
even.
by day.
Day by day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to rely on another human being. I saw my mom go through a separation from my dad, and I just never wanted to be in a position where I had to rely on someone. So for me, it was about, I want to continue to learn. I knew the value of education, and I just wanted to be able to continue to grow and learn. Never in my wildest dreams did I think about that.
I interviewed Elliot Hale earlier this year, and as you might know his story, he, was number two at Nike. He went into retirement. Then he was brought out of retirement to sit in the corner office. And I asked him at the time, I said, "Did you want to be CEO?" And he said, "I always wanted to be CEO." But I think his was a little different. It was a bit deeper and introspective in that he said, "I knew I loved this company. I could do a damn good job." But I do think it's interesting. I think there are some people who say, "Absolutely, I think I'd be a great leader for this company in particular," and some who are just saying, "I'm curious. I want to just see kind of where the career takes me." And
So,
just along the way.
yeah, until I was in my mid-30s when I finally was like, "Wait a minute, I can do this." that I started really thinking about it. And there wasn't any one particular company, although I think the world of Nike, they're an incredible company.
Yeah. When you need external business advice, who do you turn to?
Oh, goodness, that's a great question. I have some incredible board members that are fantastic, and so they absolutely serve as advisors to me. I've also worked with incredible talented. I've had the privilege in my career of having a front row seat to some of the most remarkable leaders in business. I talked about Dara at IAC with Barry Diller, Nelson Peltz at Triarch before that. I had Ronald Perlman, Alan Ennis, and David Kennedy at Revlon, and then Bill McDermott at ServiceNow. And so not necessarily do I call them, but I always look back to the lessons learned along the way, and I learned a ton. I learned financial discipline from Nelson. I learned risk-taking from Barry, how to hire and the importance of hiring great talent from Dara. And in Bill, connecting that vision and culture and strategy to the bigger picture, has just been so remarkable for me.
I'm sure. Well, one last moment of self-reflection here. You said that CFOs today really have to think, they have to have foresight, they have to be future looking, think about the next 5 to 10 years ahead. I'm sure you're doing it also professionally. So what's one thing in your career you haven't done yet that you would love to? You can't
Oh.
cop out and say you love the role you're doing now.
I do love the role I'm doing now, but I'm ambitious, and to the point, I would love to be a CEO one day. I would love to lead a company to new heights. For me, it's all about impact. And while I certainly didn't think about leading and being a CEO when I was 20, I think about it today for sure.
Absolutely. Well, you're very close to it. Gina, thank you so much for such a robust conversation and all your fresh insights. Really been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ruth. It's been great to be here.